Okay. Making sure everything is ready. Checking. I think most things are ready. I don't know. Chats have been just not having a good time. I don't know. I think I need to sit down with it and figure out what's going on because apparently my chat doesn't like me. And I don't mean like people watching. I just mean like the chat in general. It's for some reason I can only see one of the many, and it's really weird and it's kind of annoying, and I'm not sure how to fix it just yet. So I don't know. I got a weekend to figure it out. For I swear, man. As soon as I get ready to sit down and make a stream, like my contacts fall out my eyes. My sister comes visit. My nieces need food. Everybody hungry. It's just like it's too much going on. It's just too much going on. I got stuff hanging around, cups everywhere. Okay, cool. Oh, okay. Wow, that gained focus really quickly. Alrighty, so today we're going to be digging another from the doldrums here of tech support, trying to see if we can help some people. Eventually I'll actually start posting these because tech support, like Reddits, are kind of difficult. You can't like link a video because that would actually go against the guidelines in most Reddit posts. So you would actually have to put that in text form. So it's one of those kind of situations. So, but you know, by default, it should record your audio or just basically do like a text-to-speech thing. You know, all you have to do is clean it up. So I'm gonna try to get started on that eventually there, but it is what it is. But I'm just checking to make sure that I don't look beat up like I haven't shaved or whatever in like 20 days or something. It's all right. It's passable. It's passable. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get here. Okay, I gotta turn this off because this is gonna drive me crazy. Because if not, people are just gonna keep pinging me. Alrighty, let's get to work. Let's get to work, people. Let's get to work. Alrighty, here. Make sure everybody can see this. Let me just do a test here just to make sure that works. Yes, that works. Okay, cool. Alrighty, so we're gonna go ahead and go with the first issue. It looked really long, so that's why I chose it. So we'll see how it goes. My grandmama gave me that chain. This is from Natalin. He says my grandmama he says my grandma is spending all of her money on garbage. Wow. Is there any way I can blacklist the website she uses in a way that makes it look like the website is down or broken? Yes. She'll think it was magic. I know this seems manipulative and deceitful. No, it's not. And honestly, it absolutely is. I don't really think so because, okay, here's the thing. You're trying to protect your grandmother from herself, and I get that. A lot of times with adults or like older people, they may not have grown up with the internet, so they're more susceptible to things that may block them. So yeah, if I was in charge, or like let's say my grandmother lived with me, and I didn't want her to go to a particular site or particular sites that could take advantage of her, I'm just gonna block them. So I don't think that is being deceitful. I think that is just protecting your grandmother. So sometimes you have to protect people from themselves. So you know, yeah. So if you want to say it absolutely is deceitful, then okay, whatever. But I'm okay. Like I'm definitely the type to protect the overall by, if it makes me the martyr, okay, oh well, but as long as it protects the greater encompassing goal, then oh well. That's kind of how I roll. But there's nothing much more I can think of. My grandma is a very gullible woman, the kind who believes all the garbage news she sees on Facebook and doesn't fact check them, that kind of thing. but that's nowhere near as self-destructive as her spending habits. She's always been an impulsive and addictive buyer. Okay, it started with the Home Shopping Network came out. I feel you, bro. I know that feeling. She sat there and watched them advertise some weird new product or some collectible that will be worth a fortune in a few decades and bought them. But it really picked up once online shopping became a thing. Where it used to take 15 to 30 minutes for HSN to sell a product, now it's only one click away. Now she's spending all her money on it. She's buying a bunch of Chinese crap that doesn't work at all, literally trash, from freaking websites like Wish and Alibaba. Why you gotta put this on Alibaba? We've talked to her, explaining that nothing she buys works or they break almost immediately. One time, almost burned our house down. Okay, so he's verified that she lives with them. Okay, so we're just gonna scroll this down a little bit more. and she seems receptive, and then buys more crap. Her house is full of the stuff, and it's putting her in legitimate financial burden. I don't know what to do anymore beyond this last resort. She uses her iPad to do all this. Is there any way I can make her internet or iPad unable to access these sites where I can play it off that I don't know why it's happening? I know it won't solve the underlying issue, but it will at least make it harder for her to buy literal trash every chance she gets. Okay. So there's so much to unpack here. Here's the thing, okay? When it comes to grandmothers or just, like elderly, sometimes, okay, it depends. If it's her money and she's spending her money, then you let the lady do what she wants to do, for the, remainder of her life. If that's what she wants to do. Now, if it becomes to a point where it's a detriment and you see that she's actually harming herself to the point where it's actually, you're actually paying for it, it's coming out of your pocketbook and you're buying these things now, that's when you kind of want to start taking action. I try not to let people live their lives the way they want to live them. I understand that she lives with you, but if it's her money and that's the way she wants to, spend her time, then that's the way she wants to spend her time. But if it's starting to become a burden and it's starting to take away from her money to the point where she may not have enough money to retire with or something along those lines, or she can't really afford it and she's still buying this, then yeah, it becomes a problem. Now, if you wanted to block something like that, you can try looking in the app store to see if there's any apps that kind of have like a safe search kind of thing. But typically with this kind of a situation, what I would do personally is get a firewall. Get a firewall and then set it to block based on URLs, and then just block every URL you want. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be a firewall per se. Let me turn that down. It looked like it's peaking a little. I know, actually it's not. Even though it shows that it's peaking, it's probably not. It doesn't have to be a firewall per se, but it should have the ability to block URLs. So there are certain routers that can do that. There are certain sites that can do that. You can even use DNS sites, like there's a few sites, like I would just look it up, just like DNS block or DNS blocking or DNS sites that allow the block of URLs. We talked about this in earlier episodes, but essentially what a DNS does is it turns a URL to an IP address. But you have to do that, right? Because if she goes to a site, it turns that site into an IP address. Well, if you change your DNS to point to a site that actually has malware and inspection and URL lookup, and you can set it to say, hey, I don't want you to go to this URL, this URL, this, and so on and so forth, and do stars for the actual full URL path, then you can block her there. And so, and basically you could just make it so that no one can go to that site in this particular situation, because you'll be blocking at the malware level. So because of that, no one can go to that site. But if you want other people in the house and just not your grandma to go to that site, you would need something a little bit closer to you. So that would be like a router or a firewall. So you should be able to still get that on the residential side, and just you would have to ask and look around, maybe have to Google routers that allow for URL block. But with this kind of a situation, that's the way I would handle it. I'm sorry, I'm getting hot for no reason. Running out of breath trying to talk. But yeah, for this particular situation, that's how I would handle it. I would basically, if it's becoming a burden, then I would basically change it so your DNS settings so that you can just block based on URL. I'm not sure how much that would cost, but that's how I would handle it. And that way, whenever she tries to, you can just tell her that the site's down, something along those lines. It kind of depends. She may figure it out, but that you can go that route, that way around it. Especially if she's trying to be receptive and trying, but if she still can't overcome it, that's what I would do. Okay. This is what I would really do. I would block from the firewall or block from DNS. Either way is fine. And then every month or so, I just take her to a casino. That's what I would personally do. I would basically give her a new addiction. Because, if her addiction is really like gambling and ordering and stuff like that, I would just, allow her to do something else with that time, and maybe just not go as much. That way, she doesn't feel like she's being trapped, or maybe the sites are bad, because that may be her only enjoyment. So I would do something like that, like my grandmother personally, like when I went to go visit my grandmother, I took her to a casino, what I'm saying? And, we had a good time, and, she gambled and all that kind of jazz, because that's kind of, we're a family of gamblers, but that's how I would have handled that situation. I would basically give her something different to spend money on. and see if that she's receptive to that, because if you're just gambling and she spends $100-$150 something like that on a penny machine every month, that may be cheaper than this, but it to each his own. So I would try that. I would basically, I wouldn't just end it there, because if you end it there, then your grandmother may not have an outlet to express her goals and things that she likes to do, like her enjoyment in life. Because that may be her enjoyment in life, and if you're playing with that, then you may have to help her get a second one that's cheaper. Like, for example, if people are really, really into guns or something like that, and I didn't mean to say that because I know like the algorithm or whatever. So let's say people are really into, I don't know, cars. Okay, cars is a really expensive thing to be into. So instead of you being into cars, you change it to golf. Okay, well, golf is pretty expensive as well, but it's not as expensive as cars. You see what I'm saying? So you kind of go down the tier. But in this case here, instead of cars, I would do motorcycles. Okay, because motorcycles can be a little bit cheaper than cars, but it's still in the driving niche. So that's why I said gambling, because it's still in the kind of niche of spending money to get things and stuff like that. So it kind of is still achieving that same itch, I guess is the best way to say that. So it really depends, man. It's kind of a two-part question. It's like, how would I handle my grandma, and then how would I block it? You block it with a firewall or a DNS block based on URL. And then how would you handle the grandma situation? I would try to give her a different hobby, kind of step down from that one. Alrighty, that was a lot of talking for one video. All right, for one issue. Alrighty, let me make sure nobody asked me any questions. I don't think so. Let me go back to the YouTube real quick, you guys, just to make sure nobody's asking me any questions. Okay, cool. Alrighty, let's go ahead and go to the next one. Okay, just make sure my little sister didn't call me. Alrighty, going on to the next one. Alrighty, so this one here is from Adubon. I used to get 200 plus FPS on Valorant. Now I can barely get 30. Well, that's interesting. Title, please help. I would really appreciate it. If I have tried updating the graphics card drivers, and I have made sure it's using my graphics card and not the integrated graphics. I don't know what to do. Okay. Well, if you made sure that it's using your graphics card and not the integrated graphics, then I would actually try a different game. So instead of you trying Valorant, let me think of a game that's free. Overwatch. Try Overwatch. If you get 200 FPS or higher or something like that on Overwatch, but you only get 30 on Valorant, now that's different. So we'll explain them both. So let's say you use it on you try Overwatch because it's free. That's the reason why I went with Overwatch. So let's say you tried Overwatch, and Overwatch also shows you 30. Okay, now it may be some issues with your graphics card. So you said you updated your graphics card whenever you started running into this issue. It may be that you may need to downgrade and go back to a particular version if that version was actually more successful than the one that you're on. It really kind of depends on what graphics card you have. Like if you had like a GTX 580, for example, was it a 580? Yeah. The GTX 580, 590, I'm really dating myself, but like, let's say you have like one of those older graphics cards, then it could be that you may have upgraded to a version that is making the card have some issues. Now, you did say you were running 200 FPS. You didn't say what you were running it on. I'm going to guess 1080p. And if it's 1080p, then it's more so CPU based than it is GPU based. But it really kind of depends. Like if you're doing 2K, 200 FPS, then that means that you probably have a modern graphics card. For you to hit 200 FPS on 2K, then that means you have a newer graphics card. So I would make sure that you have all the plugs, like the power plugs, plugged into the graphics card at that point. But yeah, that's kind of how I would handle that situation. I would basically try to downgrade to whatever driver you had prior to upgrading. Well, not prior to upgrading, but prior to you having issues even before it started. So you may have upgraded twice. I would go back 2 versions and see if you can get that to work by uninstalling the driver and installing the version you had initially to see if that fixes the issue. If they're both 30, okay, that means across the board you're having a problem. So now if it's not it's not that you're having a problem across the board. So in other words, you try another game and the other game is 200 and you only have the problem with Valorant. Valorant may have some settings internally that are over superseding the global settings that you have in NVIDIA control panel. So in other words, you may have to go to the NVIDIA control panel and then go to the program Valorant, and then whenever you choose the program, make sure that you don't have any settings like VSync or something like that, but even VSync wouldn't cause that. Make sure you don't have any settings turned on that are superseding the global settings that are set up for the NVIDIA control panel. Also, I would check to make sure that that particular game isn't having any issues. Like, for example, I would change all my settings to default and see if that helps. Also, I would change the resolution and see if that helps. So, for example, if you're doing 2K and getting 200 FPS, change it to 1080p and see if that fixes the issue. See if you can get more than 30. If you still get 30, then something is capping you. So that means that it's going to be the settings in Valorant. That's how I would play it. So we went over if another game also has this issue, you're looking at graphics card. If it's just Valorant and other games give you over 30, then you're looking at the game. Okay, and then you will want to change and you want to go back to the default settings and see if that fixed the issue. Alrighty, man, these are some bangers, man. These are some banger issues. This is way better. Like when we first started, man, the issues that we were getting were like just, you know, my computer is black, help. But these are some bangers, man. I'm liking this. Okay, let me get ready. I think my eyes are still not very friendly. All right, is my iPhone hacked or tapped? Okay, this is from United Ad 8512. They write, I'm not the most tech savvy person out there, so forgive me from any incorrect terminology or unnecessary anxiety. That's one thing that you should never do. Never, like, if a customer or you're talking to somebody and they say, hey, you know, there's this black thing and this black thing is showing these blinking lights, don't be trying to correct them. Don't be like, oh, ma'am, I'm sorry, it's called a modem, okay? Or it's called a route. Don't do that. Don't do that. Nobody likes that kind of person. And on top of that, all you're going to do is piss off the customer, and that's not going to be good for you anyway, because all it's going to do is turn her off. So she's not going to listen to you anyway if you do something like that, and the men will probably just hang up on you. So I would definitely not do that. But yeah, you don't have to worry about that. Most people can kind of figure out what you're talking about, regardless if you know the exact terminology or not. I heard computer keyboard typing and breathing coming from the speaker beside my front-facing camera. Okay, I had to think about that. I did a hard reboot and haven't heard it since, but when I go on a rampage of changing all my passwords out of fear of my security, should I be worried about this? What should I do? Okay, so in his speaker beside my front-facing camera, I hear computer keyboard typing and breathing. Okay, I'm trying to think what sounds can be similar to keyboard typing and breathing. Well, breathing can be static noise of the sound. Like, for example, the speakers may be too close together or something along those lines, or it's creating some type of reverberation, and that can sound like breathing. Keyboard, on the other hand, it may be, that you hear yourself. So in other words, there is an option in sound that basically says hear this device or hear this. So it could be that you may have your speakers set to hear the input of your mic. So if you have a microphone and you have your microphone set up to hear the sound that's going to be in your sound settings, and then going to the actual mic device or going to the speakers, and make sure that you don't have the mic set up as to hear this sound. In other words, it will hear your playback. In other words, while you're talking, you may actually hear yourself talk. While you're typing, you can hear yourself type, and while you're breathing, you can hear yourself breathe. You run into this a lot whenever you're trying to do playbacks or just do recordings in like video editing software. You run into this situation where, just making sure nobody asks a question. You run into this situation where when you start talking on your mic, you can actually hear yourself talk in your headset or on your speakers. This is because you have to change it so that the speakers do not repeat the audio that comes from the mic. So when you said that you're hearing breathing and typing, it may be because you're breathing and typing near the mic, and you're maybe just hearing yourself. That's the first thing that's what I would think of in this particular situation. I wouldn't think it's anything else. You could say reverberation sound, stuff like that, but more than likely it sounds like you may have a mic and your mic is picking up on your keyboard and your breathing, and because of that, the speakers are making the exact same sound. Alrighty, United Ad. I hope that helps. I kind of want to follow up on that one because that's kind of an interesting issue, but we'll see. Alrighty, going on to the next one here. Okay, just checking time, making sure my face isn't super shiny because it's been a day. Alrighty, so this one is going to hardware issue. Cool. This is from Top Theory 2468. Top Theory writes, when I download GeForce NVIDIA drivers, my screen goes black. Okay. To be fair, most screens go black whenever you download NVIDIA. Okay, not when you download, but when you install NVIDIA drivers. I tried installing the correct driver multiple times and waited 2+ hours and then restarted my PC. But it still said I needed to install the driver in my GeForce experience. Is this a hardware problem? If so, would calling NVIDIA support give a free replacement? Maybe. Just bought a pre-built PC, CyberPower with a 3060 Ti, and have encountered this problem. Any help is appreciated. Edit, would it be possible to refund the PC and just buy from a different company? It depends on when you bought it. So if it's within 30 days, I believe is what CyberPower does. Most places do 30 days. Then they may allow you to refund that. And then for the graphics card, if it's outside of 30 days, then NVIDIA may replace it if it's within a year. That's a possibility. But don't have me lying. I would call either CyberPower if it's within a month or NVIDIA if it's within a year, and see if they're willing to replace it, if that's really your main question. Now, talking about your issue and the screen going black, yes, I've had this issue several times before, and they've always been a precursor to the graphics card dying. That's usually what happened. Every time I try to install the driver, it'll never pick up, and I'll never see it. The reason you don't see it is because it changes to a resolution that is not supported by the monitor. You can figure this out really quickly by installing a program like TeamViewer on your computer and then going to another computer whenever your screen turns black and see what resolution you get. If your resolution is like 640 by 480 or something like that, then that means that you may have a problem with that particular graphics card and it's not able to display the resolution anymore. And on top of that, if it doesn't give you the options to choose other resolutions, then yeah, you may have a bad graphics card. It's kind of how you would troubleshoot this particular situation. So install TeamViewer or some type of remote desktop software, change it or try to do the upgrade. When the screen goes black, go to another computer, log into it, and check the resolution. By you right click and go into like the display and then going there and checking the resolution. Or whenever your screen just pops up, it'll show this little bitty square, and not the full 1920 by 1080. And that's the quickest way you can figure out whether or not it's not the correct resolution. That's how I would handle that particular situation. So call CyberPower if you can. Call NVIDIA if you can, depending on how long it's been. You said you just bought it, but you didn't give specifics on how long you've had it. But that's how I would handle this particular situation. Alrighty, maybe I should probably post that in his comments here. In fact, nobody has actually replied to him. Alrighty, Top Theory, I hope that helps, bro. Let me check my chat, make sure everything is copacetic. It looks like everything is fine. Yes, everything looks fine here. Okay, just making sure everything's cool. Alrighty, so we're gonna go ahead and go to the next one. Alrighty, so this is from Buy Games. It says problem with motherboard charging. Okay, I'm not even. Let's continue. Hi everyone, I have a little problem. I have a phone, a Samsung Galaxy A50, good phone. I take photos and I see unusual things. I can share it because in the community, I cannot share it because in the community cannot be shared. If anyone can help with that, please, in the comments. Thanks and have a good day. Motherboard charging. Hold on, let me read this again. I have a little problem. I have a phone. I take a photo and something unusual happens. I can share it because in the community it cannot be shared. I can share it because in the community it cannot be shared. Let me think about this. But he said motherboard charging. When I take a photo, I see things. So, okay, so but he's talking about when he takes a picture. Maybe he's talking about sharing his photos after the pictures have been taken. Charging. Let me think about this. Okay, let me. What I like to do, like when you have, there have been several situations where you troubleshoot issues, and you may be dealing with somebody who speaks a different language than you, or you're dealing with somebody who may have broken English or something along those lines, and you kind of want to put things together to kind of piece together what kind of questions they're asking. That's why I'm trying to give this some time, because nobody's answered, and I'm trying to think of any kind of scenario that can turn into an actual paragraph, so I can kind of give an idea of what he's trying to refer to. So he starts off with, problem with, I don't want to get too far out and then get lose focus. Problem with motherboard charging. Okay, well, motherboard charging, but he's talking about a phone. So he has a Samsung Galaxy A50. When he takes photos, I can share it because in the community it cannot be shared. Oh, okay. I can share it because in the community cannot be shared. Right. So he wants to take a photo of the issue, but he can't because in this community it cannot be shared. That's true. You can't. It's hard to share pictures in this community. If anyone could help with that, please answer in the comments. Okay. I don't think he actually has an issue with his phone or anything like that. I think he's trying to post an issue about his motherboard, and he's unable to do so because he's unable to upload pictures. It's kind of like how I'm unable to reply to like half of these. So I think that may be the issue. I think he may actually have a question for the actual tech support. But but let's think about what he's talking about. Let's say if we don't have the picture and it's about his motherboard, he's saying his motherboard isn't charging, but motherboards don't really charge. Basically, his motherboard, if it's not charging or not coming on, then that means that he may have an issue with his power supply, and that's how it particularly handled that particular situation. I would basically try to power it on and see if there's any lights. If it's not the power supply, then also the pin that controls the power button. So basically, there's a pin that plugs into the motherboard that controls power and LED and motherboard LED. Maybe those have been removed because of something pulling against it, and maybe they have popped off the motherboard, and because of that, it's not powering on. It can be something along those lines, but it really kind of just depends on what the picture would have shown. So, ideally though, you should be able to upload a picture if you post it with a link, but who knows? Our tech support is pretty strict when it comes to posting pictures or videos in this case. So it really kind of depends, man. I'm sorry about that. I really wish I could have, maybe given you a little bit more insight, but that's how I would handle that particular situation if you really do have an issue with your motherboard. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next one. All right, it's from Gillette, the best a man can get, or woman, or other, or whatever. I'm not even about to get into Gillette commercials, but this was from Gillette. Okay, there's an audio problem. I am trying to stream, and for some reason, the audio comes from the speakers when I have the mic and headset plugged in. Right. And when I use OBS or Audacity, for some reason, even when my mic is off, it picks sound, the desktop audio. I need help with fixing this issue. Yeah. So, okay, whenever you were saying it was OBS, well, OBS, because in OBS, under the audio mixer, there is options of which device is sending you audio. So by default, it will try to turn on audio of other devices. You want to mute those and only keep the mic. That's how you would handle it in OBS. In programs like in other types of video editing programs, you may have to download a virtual audio cable is what it's called. It's a software that allows you to put together two different audio channels so that your mic isn't heard through your sound or your speakers. You may have to do something along those lines. So but this right here, this can be Googled. Like if you say audio comes from speakers, when mic is plugged in and just put in like streaming, it'll tell you exactly why, and it will tell you like the virtual audio. Like I've had this issue before. Like there's a software that you can download that allows you to put two audio streams together, and when that happens, it may fix the issue. But if we're talking about OBS, I would check your audio mixer. So whenever you have your mic, you may also have your speakers or something like that set up, and because of that, you're hearing the audio, but basically you will just see it in the mixer. So if you see it in the mixer and other things are moving and they're not disabled, that's how you would troubleshoot that particular issue. Alrighty, checking time here. Let's go ahead and go to the next one. Well, we're doing pretty good on time actually. We may have to grab some more. Alrighty. This is from let me make sure nobody before I butcher this name. Fuzakina 55. Every time I type on my PC, it freezes the application. Wow. Okay, that's new. I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but every time I type I'm sorry, I gotta adjust this pillow. Okay, there we go. I'm sorry. I've started to be too much pain. Okay, every time I type on my PC, it freezes the application. Okay, coach, just making sure nobody's asking questions. I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but every time I type anything on my keyboard in any application, Google, Slack, versus code, it lags and eventually freezes. The application is fine and works if I don't type anything. I can navigate to different pages, play videos, sound is fine, but as soon as I type, it freezes. Okay, I can force close it and reopen the app, and the same thing will happen. It is fine navigating, playing videos, but as soon as I type something, it fails. I can sign in and out of my Windows account on boot up, sign in screen fine, but anything else will cause it to fail. I have updated Windows, deleted and reinstalled my keyboard, checked driver dates, and restarted my computer multiple times. Any other fixes you can think of? Okay, let me make sure I'm in focus. Yes, I am. Okay, let's think about this. So his current issue is that when he plugs in his keyboard, when he's using his keyboard, anytime he types something, his screen freezes, or the application freezes. It doesn't sound like his entire computer freezes, just the application freezes and he has to restart. I'm trying to think. I've had this happen before. I'm trying to think why it happened. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so here's what happened when I had this problem. Okay, I used to play this game or whatever, and this game required a lot of macros. Okay, and so what would happen is I would play the game or whatever and use all my macros and all that kind of stuff, but I would turn them like there's options, like for example, if you have like the Razer, any version of the Razer, like the Black Widows and stuff like that, you can set it so that you can turn on a particular set of buttons and then turn them off with the button press. So basically you press it, turn it on, and then whenever you're done, you can turn it off. So there were certain button presses that I would do that would keep it on, and then I would turn it off. Or I would set it so that it would turn off automatically or something along those lines. Well, sometimes they stick. And when they stick and you can't remove them, then you pressing a button on your keyboard is actually activating the features on the mouse. For example, if you macroed Alt-Delete and press Control on the keyboard, what would happen? You see what I'm saying? You would actually press Control Alt Delete, and the screen would actually go back, go to the the Windows login screen. So that's what I think may be happening. I think you may have macros turned on your mouse, and it's affecting your keyboard. That's exactly what happened with me. In order to fix this, I had to unhook my mouse. You never mentioned that you unhooked your mouse, only that you removed your keyboard. So I think that your mouse may have macros, and those macros are affecting what you're typing on your keyboard, so that whenever you type something, you're actually typing Shift Alt, for example. So you type A, you're typing Shift Alt A or something like that, and it's causing a problem, and it's making it is freezing the application because maybe you're pressing too many buttons or too many things at once, and it's making the application not work. So that's what I would first try to do is unhook the mouse and the keyboard. The second thing I would try to do is try a different keyboard. So if you have a different keyboard that you can try, I would try that, see if it works. And you just mentioned that was a regular Windows device. I'm not sure if it's a device that can be portable, that can actually have the keyboard on screen. If you do have the option to have a screen keyboard, I would try that to see if that fixes the issue, or have a different keyboard and see if that fixes the issue. So that's how I would go about it. I would make sure I don't have any macros turned on, and if I do have macros turned on, I will make sure I get those turned off or uninstalled or something along those lines to see if that fixes the issue, as well as try to replace the keyboard by either software or hardware. Okay, man, these issues here, man, I'm getting good at this. This is fun, man. This is, whoo. Okay, that was a good one. That was a really good one. All right, let me check the clock here. All right, cool. All righty, I think we'll do a couple more and we'll see where we are. All righty, lots of heart emojis, well, black hearts, so I'm not sure if that's a good thing or bad. I guess we'll find out here in a little bit. Make sure I do focus. Okay, cool. Just making sure I don't lose focus. Okay, Ethernet does not have a valid IP configuration. Hi, I am awful at computers and I have no idea what to do, but my PC runs on the new Windows and suddenly in the middle of a game, it said there's no internet connection and I am so confused. I can do this in a voice. Okay, let's do this. Hold on, let me burp and make sure everything's good. All right, I ran the troubleshooting thing and it just said Ethernet doesn't have a valid IP configuration. My brother reset the Wi-Fi and I've reset my PC, but I have no idea how to fix it. When searching how to fix it on Google, I didn't understand anything the website we're talking about. It's all so confusing. /33, I'm not sure what that means. If anyone could help, I would love you forever. All right, let's rock and roll. So when you have these kind of customers, and you can tell just by the lingo that you talking about DHCP in this situation, which may even be the issue, but you talking about DHCP would just go right over their heads. So you never start with that. So they said they rebooted the router, and she said, okay, let's say it's it's a she because it's Annie. Okay, the poster is Annie Uwu. So if I apologize if it's not a she, but I'm just going by the name on the username. But we'll say she for this time because I always say he. So let's say that is what's happening, and okay, so let's say it is a she, and if it is a she, then it's more than likely that she has a laptop. And she doesn't mention that she had what type of computer she has, but the fact that she said Wi-Fi makes me think that it's a higher probability that they have a laptop than they have a desktop. Because generally when somebody starts talking about Wi-Fi, they're usually talking about something wireless, and it's rare that they're talking about a desktop that has Wi-Fi set up. That's very, very rare, and if it's so, they would actually have said that. So I think she just has a laptop and she was just trying to play a video game. So in this kind of a situation, what I would do is you've already tried to reboot it. So here's the thing, and I wouldn't say this to them, I'm saying this to the audience. If it was DHCP, then she wouldn't have been the only person with this issue. Multiple people that are trying to get on would also have this issue. Now, you could argue saying that, okay, well, those other people already had IP addresses, so maybe it's only new devices, because she just said, I'm off work computers and PC runs on the new Windows, so it may be that she may have a new computer, but once they rebooted it, everybody should have had to connect. So if everybody else is connecting and she's the only person with that issue, then she may have an issue with her Wi-Fi adapter. So if you do have an issue with your Wi-Fi adapter, then what you would want to do in this kind of a situation is plug in directly to the router. So what that means, now talking to her, is basically take those phone cables. They're kind of big though. They're kind of phone cables, but they're a little overweight. Those guys, I want you to take one of those and plug it into your laptop, and then plug the other end into that router your friend rebooted, and see if that works. If that allows you to get onto the internet, because if it does, then you may have an issue with the wireless card on your laptop, unfortunately. So, and if it turns out that that's the situation and everything works fine, however, whenever you go wireless, you have a problem, then basically it could be that you may have an issue with your wireless card, or it could be that the card is disabled. When you look in the bottom right hand corner of your screen, you know those little bars that look like a Wi-Fi symbol? Is there a slash through it by any chance? Is there like a line through it? Because if there's a line through it, then it could be that it's disabled, and we would have to go into the control panel and enable it. If not, then you may just straight up have an issue with your wireless card, and if so, you may have to update it. And in order to update it, you would actually have to go into well, if you have the name of the laptop, you would just Google the laptop and just download and install the wireless card under the support download of your laptop. All right, so that's how I'll explain this particular situation. I would definitely not talk about DHCP or IP addresses and stuff like that, but that's how I would handle this particular problem. I would kind of just break it down and go step by step by step, so that it's very, very easy to understand and easy to talk about. I wouldn't just straight up start talking about, oh yeah, you're not pulling an IP address, you're probably pulling a 169. If I would check and make sure, if you are pulling a 169, then it may be an issue with the router. But if you're pulling a 169 and you reboot, then everybody would have been pulling the 169 and so on and so forth. I wouldn't go that route with this. I would basically ease them into it exactly as I explained. Alrighty, Annie, hope that helps. All right. I want to turn on the AC, but I'm afraid it's going to affect the audio, so I like the way the audio quality comes in on these, so I'm not going to mess with it. I'm just going to sweat. All right, so this is an intermission. I don't know air. I'm not sure about that, but oh yeah, so I was trying to do an intermission where it just kind of talked about the MacBook Air M2 that just came out. I actually don't have this particular model. I was thinking about getting it just for like reviewing purposes and just to try it out kind of thing. But you know, the MacBook, even the M1 chip has always been mighty fast. So you know, like the M2 having that, it's just this. I mean, it's just a higher iteration. So I'm not even sure if it's, you know, necessary at this particular point in juncture. But you know, having a laptop that is pretty light is kind of nice. I thought there was an issue attached to it, but apparently not. The new iOS version has been kind of interesting. I've run into issues with that, but I'm not sure if that's just issues with me or just issues all around. But we'll see. But yeah, I don't have too much to say about it. I thought it was actually going to show me some questions that had to do with Mac, so I apologize. Excuse me for that. We'll just go ahead and go to the next one. Alrighty, just making sure here we don't have any drop frames, making sure everything is good. Okay, cool. Alrighty, so this is from Pog Old Ham. Mr. Pog writes, I have an FPS spike in multiple games every 10 seconds. I can literally count when the FPS spike is about to happen. It lasts anywhere from 3 to 8 seconds, and my FPS drops to 5 from 144. I can count to 10 and the next one will happen, which tells me it is some kind of auto checker or something going off every 10 seconds. Sometimes when I restart, it won't do it, but after a while, it will start again with the lag spikes every 10 seconds. What could be causing this? I'm on Windows 10, by the way, and I have an AMD Ryzen laptop. I see that my CPU utilization spikes to 100 and then goes back down to about 30. Well, I mean, you answered it. So because your CPU is going up to 100 and goes back down to 30 and it's consistent, that lets me know that you may be having issues with your CPU. I'm thinking heat, or maybe you have an older, well, you said a Ryzen, so it's not even an older laptop. So even a lower end Ryzen can run most games. I would try, in this particular situation, the resolution of your laptop is more likely higher than 1080p. It's probably 2K or 4. I'm sorry, that was my niece. It's probably 2K or 4K. If your resolution is at 2K or 4K, what I would do is that you may be overutilizing your laptop. In other words, your CPU is spiking because you know it can't handle the game that you're playing. So what I would try to do in this particular situation is go down to 1080p or 720p at 144 hertz and see if that resolves the issue. If it does, then it may be that your laptop is unable to handle the higher resolution. You know, so I would start all the way low. So I would start at 720p, 144 hertz, and then take it from there. Now, of course, 720p and 1080p at 144 hertz is more utilizing the AMD Ryzen than it is a graphics card if you do have an internal graphics card on that particular laptop. But still, the point still remains is that, you know, try to go with a lower resolution to see if that resolves the issue, because now you're not pushing as many pixels into the monitor. So that may actually make it so that the CPU doesn't spike, and then take it from there. So let's say, you know, you try it at 720p, everything is fine. You try 1080p, everything is fine. But as soon as you go 2K, that's when you start having the problems. Then it could be that your settings are just too high. Maybe you have to lower your graphics settings at 2K in order to get it to work properly. So that's how I would handle that particular situation if it's going to 5 from 144. 5 is kind of steep though. I would also try to check for drivers to see if maybe you need a driver update or something along those lines. But if it's like clockwork, it doesn't really sound like it may be a driver issue. For it to go down to 5, yeah, for it to go down to 5, that only means hardware, so CPU or graphics memory. But if it was graphics memory, it actually would have blue screened you. So yeah, I would think that your CPU utilization is spiking a little bit too high, and every time it spikes, it causes the issue. Therefore, try a lower resolution or lower settings to see if that fixes it. For it to go down to 5, that means that it really is getting at 100% on multiple cores. That's the reason why I hesitated earlier, because I was like, he said he's hitting 100%, but is he really hitting 100% on every single core? You know how hard that is to do? Like a lot of Ryzen laptops have more than 4 cores, or even with threading. So for you to hit 100% on multiple cores, that's very, very, very hard to do. So in this particular situation though, if he really is spiking and hitting 100% on multiple cores, then yeah, I will lower the resolution of whatever game you're playing. Maybe the device can't handle it, or it's generating too much heat. And that's how I would handle this particular situation, Mr. Pog. Alrighty, so I think we've run through like 8 or 9 of them here, so let me grab a couple more and we will call it a day. This one looks long. Ethernet doesn't have a valid IP config. I just did an IP one. I don't want to do 2. I guess boot error. Well, I've replaced my entire computer and it still won't. Okay, okay, we're gonna look at this one. Oh, sorry. As soon as he did that, I was interested. You got me at I've replaced. All right, so this is from Apache 9256. Apache writes, I've replaced my entire computer and it still won't work. That's interesting. Okay, this is a hardware issue. Well, he opened it to hardware is the subreddit he chose. Okay, had an issue earlier this week where I upgraded my RAM and the PC wouldn't boot. Okay. Not the first time it wouldn't boot, but usually a restart worked every time. Couldn't get it to boot ever since. At first, the monitors would turn on like they were getting signal, but nothing would show up. But today, I've replaced basically every component, every component, and still it won't work. I have 2 monitors, and I've tried, but using different cables and ports on the motherboard and GPU. I replaced and upgraded the PSU today. I installed a brand new RAM. Why didn't you try the RAM that you had previously? You don't mention that, but I would have tried the RAM I had previously just to make sure that installing the new RAM caused the issue. I installed brand new RAM. Also try using one stick in case somehow the other 3 are all bad. I have an M.2 NVMe and SSD. Tried using just one at a time, neither will boot. Tried my Windows install USB, same thing. Replaced the motherboard yesterday. Okay, well, you replaced the motherboard, you replaced the RAM, you replaced the power supply, and you tried multiple SSDs that had Windows, and you tried a boot image. Well, then the only 2 that's left is CPU and graphics card, unfortunately. And the fact that it's actually trying to show you a picture but does it makes me think graphics. You didn't mention what type of CPU you had. If you have a CPU that has integrated graphics, I would try it without the graphics card, and that will, kind of point me in the right direction. But if you have a CPU that does not have internal graphics, then I would try to plug the graphics card into a different slot and see if that resolves the issue. Let me think about that. Also, I would try to see if you have a monitor that only does 1080p. So no 4K monitor. So maybe a monitor that only supports 1080p, because it could be that it's showing you a picture, but it's at a lower resolution, similar to one of those other issues that we went through previously where he said he was getting a black screen. I always don't trust black screens, because if I get a black screen, that may actually mean that it's just at a resolution that my monitor can't show. Because I have a lot of 4K monitors. A lot of people have 4K and 2K monitors, so maybe at a resolution your monitor can't show. So because of that, it shows a black screen. But if it's powering on and staying on, then yeah, I would think graphics card. If it's powering on and then turning itself off immediately, then I would think CPU. So that's how I would handle that situation, because if your graphics card is having an issue, it may still power on and it won't power itself off until it gets to a certain point. But even when you try a Windows boot drive, it still didn't work. And but you never mentioned whether or not it sounds like your fans are spinning up or not. If your fans are spinning up and then turns immediately off, then you're looking at a CPU issue. If your fans turn on and stay on and you still have a black screen, then you may be looking at a graphics card issue. And that's how I would handle that. I thought it was going to be something crazy, but that's how I would handle that. It would either be graphics card or CPU, because those are the only ones that are left. You've done everything else, bro. You're almost there. You're almost there. Keep your head up. You got that. Alrighty, let's go ahead and go to this one here. It's going to be our last one for today. I'm getting overly hot. Alrighty, so this is going to be from Fuzikina. And Fuzikina writes, every time I type on my PC, it freezes the application. Oh no, I already did this one. I thought I grabbed two. It still won't work. Ooh. We'll do that one. Alright. So let me scroll down a little bit here, make sure we get it all in one go. Okay, cool. This is from Frederick Chopin. Son's laptop can't update or reinstall Windows and can't clean install because it won't recognize the USB drive. Okay, let me think about that. Son's laptop can't update or reinstall Windows and can't clean install because it won't recognize the USB drive. Okay, so my son started complaining that his laptop, Windows 11, had no sound and that various applications weren't working properly. I wonder if it came because he upgraded to Windows 11, but I'll continue reading. I started looking into it and noticed that the Windows Update section of settings had a huge backlog of failed updates and installations. I tried manually restarting the updates, but to no avail. I realized that he had little free storage, so I cleared about 80 gigs so I could try to reinstall Windows. I tried to do it from within Windows, but it kept stopping and saying the installation failed. So finally, I decided to do a clean install and wipe everything. So I went to create a bootable USB to do the installation. Problem is, I can't get Windows to recognize the USB drive or an SD drive or any peripheral device for that matter. I've tried everything I could find on Google, including using the admin command to format the USB drive and create a volume to assign a drive letter. It does show up in Device Manager, but won't show up in the directory and isn't recognized by the BIOS to boot from. Okay, well, on this one here, I would try to format it and make sure that you choose a formatting option that is compatible with Windows. And let me scroll down a little bit more. It seems like I'm completely out of options here. I've looked at a dozen or so tutorials to reinstall drivers, reinstall Windows, or get the thing to recognize external drives, and everything turns into a dead end. My son asked if we can just change the SSD drive, but I'm not sure if that would even work. Any help would be greatly appreciated because I'm at my wit's end here. Yes, I would give you some help. What I would do, pull out the SSD and go get a SATA to USB and plug it into a different computer and wipe it. That's what I would do, and then wipe it and then install the boot Windows on that drive and see if it will boot. Now, of course, that's also the drive that you happen to want to install Windows on, but I'm just trying to see if that will at least get you somewhere. Now, you could, let me think about that. I was thinking about cloning. Okay, so there's a way that you can clone a drive to a drive. So in other words, if you have plans on wiping this guy anyway, and it's not working with USB because I'm guessing either a driver issue or maybe you're formatting the format that it chose is improper. So okay, one, let's start with the USB one, and then we'll go with the other one. So let's say if it was a USB issue, then it may be that you may have a Mac in the house, so maybe the thumb drive is not formatted properly, and so because of that, it's not being picked up. Or maybe you don't have the bootloader file that is needed for it to actually boot from. So it may be one of those. So if it is, then you may have to reformat it, or make sure that you have the right boot image on it, not an install update, but an actual boot for Windows. So now let's talk about the other side of it. And what were you talking about on the other side here? Will show up in directory, and is it recognized by the BIOS to boot from? It's not recognized by the BIOS. I'm sorry, I lost my train. Oh, the other option was to basically take the SSD and wipe it or clone it. So you can take the SSD out. If there's another computer, I would just clone that other computer and then put that SSD back into the computer and then boot from that SSD. Now you're gonna have to, whenever it comes back up, you're gonna have to, change the settings or whatever and set him up with his own account or something along those lines. But that's how I would handle. But that's a way that you can handle this particular situation. The reason why I'm saying this, and I know, the first thing people may think of is like, okay, well, Anthony, why would you say something like that when he can easily just well, what was I gonna say? Well, he can easily either try to boot from a CD, like I don't even know if they make CDs anymore, but like put it on a CD, or buy like a CD or USB CD and try to do it that way, or B, try another thumb drive and see if you try another thumb drive, if that works. I was trying to go the path least taken, or the path easiest taken, because he was already getting ready to wipe his computer anyway. So, he could try to just wipe it on another computer or clone it from another computer and just call it a day. Generally cloning it from another computer using Macrium Reflect for free. I was trying to remember the name of the application. Maybe an easier way to go about it, because he can have it fixed in like 30 minutes. But if not, he can go pick up a different thumb drive, and see if that works. Or you may have to install the drivers for the USB dongle that he's trying to use. So there are situations where the reason why the computer can't read it is because the dongle itself doesn't have the drivers, so you have to install the drivers. But I've never seen it happen with a dongle. It always happens with a drive that it's not compatible with, that wants you to install the firmware for that particular drive because it's not working properly. But that's how I would handle this particular situation. If you cannot plug any USB devices into it in order to boot from Windows, take the SSD out and go clone it somewhere and then plug it back in. Alrighty, so I think that is going to be our last one here today, and we're all right on time here. Whew, okay, so not too bad. How many we do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and a possible. Because the Mac, I swear, when I clicked on that tab, it had something, but apparently it didn't. But making sure nobody asked me any questions, it does not look to be the case. Alrighty, Forum, it has been a pleasure. Thank you guys so much for watching. And if you like this video, hit the like button. If you really like it, Forum, go to subscribe. I love you either way. Take care, all the best, and bye.